Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another Genshin Impact reaction. I apologize today if I'm a little off my game. I had a gap for Christmas and now I'm back, so I don't know how that's going to affect my whole brain activity while listening to songs. Hopefully it won't be too bad though, because we have two songs from Harshit in the comments of the last video, and this is a Green Hill Remade and a Lie of Alia. These are both apparently Hisi Island songs, which I love Hisi Island. Like, haven't done anything over there, obviously. Like I said many times, I've been avoiding doing anything in Nodcry in general, but I will go to Hisi Island to do like level up stuff for some of the characters I have, and I'll just find myself sitting there. It's so pretty. So like, I'm familiar with the area but not these songs because they're apparently part of the world quest around Hisi Island, so I don't know what these are going to sound like, and I guess without further ado, let's go. Ooh. Sorry, that reminded me of something else completely. It was kind of weird. It's definitely not the same thing. But for a split second there, I was like... Ooh. It's gonna go down one more. Oh no, it stayed. Oh, and up. Okay. That like the half steps there, I was expecting this to go boom, back down, but all right. I caught my assumptions and threw them in the trash. I hear the clacking. I love it. I love it when they leave the texture of the instrument in there. It's not just tone. God, I'm so glad they left that in there. It's such a small detail, but it changes so much about how the song feels. Little things. The little things make the biggest changes. So the reason this song caught me off guard at the beginning is because it reminded me a lot of some songs I've heard out of the 80s. Not that I'm obviously from the 80s, but I've heard a lot of music from that era. And this had a very similar feel in that ostinato of the do-do-do-do, like that repeating pattern there. That's basically consistent all the way through. They do change the notes that are played, but it's the same pattern all the way through. And it's just so static and consistent. You can hear that approach to ostinatos in a lot of like synthwave and synth pop stuff, especially city pop as well. They borrowed from that. It was just easy in the 80s when you have things that are like, especially analog synthesizers, where you need to keep things short and repeated to be able to keep them like sensible for recording. You have to keep those within a certain time. So just having that vibe just continuously on like repeat here just felt so, you know, friendly and familiar. It's something that I've heard thousands of times, and that's probably why it sounded so familiar, just because it's like you can only do so much with so many notes. Like, you figure an octave is 12 notes, and you can only do that so many times within there in the same type of patterns before it starts to become like the same thing in multiple songs, which happens a lot, especially from that era. So it reminded me of that, and I wanted to mention it just because it was so nice to hear it. But then it also ties itself into that nostalgia for me, and this whole song kind of has that airiness like a lot of other stuff from Nodcry does, where it just isn't feeling like it's connected to the ground in any way, shape, or form. It's very floaty and it's freeing. And then we got to that spot with the nickel harpa and having that texture in there. I love that they leave that in there so fucking much. Like, there are so many people out there who'd be like, I want the tone of the nickel harpa. The tone of the nickel harpa is great, sure, but the texture is what makes the difference of a nickel harpa and basically anything else like a hurdy-gurdy. Like, the similar mechanics going on there, they're different though. Leave that in there. Leave the clicking and the tapping in there. That like a sound in there, that mechanical feel is what makes that instrument feel so tangible. It's what makes it unique to itself. You don't hear the cranking like you do on a hurdy-gurdy because it's not a hurdy-gurdy. So if you remove the tone from either of those instruments, it becomes harder to tell which is which in the grand scheme of things, especially in a mix. So it's just like, leave that in there. I love it when they do it, and they did it here, and it's just like, yay. You know, just little things. It's those little choices that make the song feel different, you know? It makes it more unique, and it makes the entire song feel a little bit different too, purely by like, what's the point of that? You know, you hear that texture in there and you're like, did they leave that there on purpose, or is it just to be there? Is it supposed to serve some sort of percussive purpose to the song itself? And sometimes yes, but I don't think that was necessarily the case here. I think it was just the fact that it is the nickel harpa, and it has that aspect to it. It has that little tactile click that happens when you change the notes on it, and they left it in there just because they could. I think there really wasn't any other like percussive like consistency to it. It wasn't like they were trying to match it in with the rhythm of the song or anything like that. It was just playing the notes. But also the fact that it was so sharp makes me wonder if they boosted it a little bit, because a lot of the times when you mix those in there, you try to hide it underneath something else, but maybe it's just because the song was so relatively empty of everything else. There wasn't a bunch of other instruments trying to fight for that frequency, that it was just really noticeable here. But man, I love it when they do that. I just love it. It's a personal thing for me. I just adore when they leave the instrument alone in a mix instead of trying to like squeeze all of the tone out of it and leaving all of that quote unquote imperfection out of it. It's like, it's not imperfection. It's what makes that instrument so valuable. And now about that bass line part that got me. It confused me for a second because I'm so used to hearing the one thing. So I was expecting to hear what it actually did was this. And then it went back down. And that's just me running through the notes, not actually playing the pattern there. But that's what it does throughout the whole bass line, is it moves up that line from here on the F to up here on the E flat. So it's like, okay, that makes sense. What my brain was expecting it to do was, instead of and then reaching up to that, I was expecting it to kind of end on the same note but wrap back around to that F. So I was expecting it to go down to do that instead. Where it would have gone something like that, you know, just a little bit of a different thing. Maybe it would have gone, and it would have gone back down the same line that it came from, with dropping down further to the lower E flat before landing back up on the higher F that it started at, and creating that cyclical feeling. But instead what they did, which also makes sense because it does basically the same thing cyclically, it just kind of goes in a straight line instead before starting off that loop again on the octave above, is just ending on that E flat. So it totally makes sense, and it's what I wanted it to do, except it just stayed longer in that one octave and just moved up to the other one before going all the way back down. It's a completely valid option, and it still did what my brain was expecting out of that bass line, but it's just a different way to phrase it. It's just like there's different ways to phrase different chords. You can do the same thing in multiple different ways depending on how and where you play a chord a lot of the time. Same thing with octaves in general. If you play an F here, it's still an F here. You know, it's just, you can do whatever you want with music. That's half the fun of it. I just wasn't expecting it to do what it did, which was hang on this B flat here, and I was like, really? That's the choice you're going for? And that's what caught me up. It's just because it wasn't what my brain was expecting. I wanted it to go back down to that loop, so it was just odd to not have that, but at the same time, like I said, it totally makes sense. This song was very interesting for a lot of reasons. It kind of caught my brain like, oh, they're doing that like 4 different times, and that's half the fun of listening to music, is hearing the different ways people try to compose stuff and phrase stuff differently in order to make it hit a different emotional feel. For this one, I thought it was interesting that they had that ostinato going, that was just that loop, and they did move that up a few notes and just kept it going before going back down, just keeping that relationship steady all the way through. But then for that bass line there that I mentioned in the middle section, they decided to use a straight line instead of looping back around the same way. So it creates this sort of relationship in the song that you can't really tell where the track is going to end and what exactly that may mean or feel like by the end of the song, before bringing in everything else on there. And that's all before even bringing in the nickel harpa to do its thing and have its a little time to shine as like the lead instrument, which doesn't happen too often. So it's just really nice to hear it. But at the same time, it's just, it did so many things right in a way I wasn't anticipating. That's the reason you hire people who know what they're doing. They will look at music in a different way and produce something that you could have never expected. But either way, I'm going to stop yapping about this one. I haven't even heard a Lie of Alia yet, so let's get to that one, shall we? That's a very different atmosphere. It's very different. What? I was not anticipating like a pad synth organ combo. That is such a cool texture to have underneath everything else. Just a little bit of grit underneath there, and now it's gone. Those beautiful swells. This little like shaker, like those. Like those have to signify something. I can't quite tell what. It almost sounds like those like warding instruments they use for like spiritual purposes. God, that was so different from the other one. Not, I should expect, honestly, that they're very different, but like, it's from the same area, so I always assume they're going to be like the exact same, and it's weird, the amount of consistency that they have for not being consistent at all. So real quick, before I get into the music side of things, just like a straight up game theory situation here for Genshin, because I'm obviously a relatively new player. I just got done with Sumeru, and I just figured out and went to Enkonomiya, and I experienced that area, and I just realized how close Nod Cry's like design language is in like the world design stuff, like the pillars in the background and like the shrine there. Like I feel like somebody might have mentioned that, but I probably missed it. Is that related? I mean, it would make sense if Nod Cry is like this like ancient area that was kind of like rebuilt from the scraps of like a dead civilization, if Enkonomiya was like in some way related to that. I just haven't gotten that deep into the lore of those areas to know. So like, sorry for just bringing that up randomly, but like, am I on the right track there? I feel like somebody tried to tell me that, but I as much as I read a lot, I miss a lot, and it's possible somebody said that in chat or something, and I just like am now recalling it as my own memory. But let me know if I'm on the right track there. But for the song itself, this was super interesting because like, yeah, what I just said in the other song doesn't really apply to this one. Not in every way, but at the same time, it's also very consistent. Like the synth in here, that like organ sort of synth that had this like synthetic pad underneath it that was like very gritty, and it had that like staticky sort of sound to it, the square wave sort of like saw buzz toothy situation. It's just I couldn't quite nail what frequency pattern that was, but it was there, and that connects itself to that whole feeling of that like 80s ostinato I was getting in the last one. So that's what I mean by like they're so consistent but so inconsistent. Like between everything, they have a very consistent language in all of their songs. You can tell that they're somewhat related, but the vibes they go for are so unique to each other that it's like, this is nothing like that last one. This one had way more of this like pensive feeling to it. Like you'd be sitting on the edge of one of the cliffs on this island and just going, damn. It's just, you're thinking about everything. This is like a perfect song to just sit there and listen to while you're like looking out in the sunset on the edge of this island and just going, man, this place is fucking huge. I've spent my whole life here. And it's just, that's the vibe I'm getting from this one. There's a lot of reflection in it, and it's different from the other one because of that approach. This one I know is from a different like part of the like world quest as far as I'm aware. I don't know if it's the same world quest. It might be a different one, same island though, where it's like you can just tell that they're not going for the same energy, because why would it? It's a different story dealing with different people, different lore, different everything potentially. I'm not sure how deep all these are intertwined. I know the world quests like to do that, but at the same time, sometimes not really. It's a huge fucking game. What do you expect? But also it's just, again, the vibes on this one are completely different from the other one. This one had a much more melancholic, reflective energy, and the other one had a little bit more of like, I wouldn't say upbeat, but it was a little bit more present. It didn't feel like your soul had left your body like this one does. This really feels like an out-of-body experience sort of track, while also keeping you just at peace enough to keep your sense of self. It's very interesting in that way. And there's nothing really that like specifically lends itself to that. Like I mentioned, the whole synth thing, that was just cool to have that texture there. And again, that's part of why I think that these songs are so good at their consistency within reason, is because they do share some of that DNA, but it's not necessarily anything that changes the mood of the music most of the time. It's more to relate the entire feeling of the tracks and the world's consistency therein. So the composition itself is going for a very different result. It wants you to feel something very different. And this song really just made me have that like out of body, like, damn, this is pretty, but also holy shit. Take a drag, you know, just like, bam, bro. Like, it's a completely different experience from the other one. Because Green Hill Remade had kind of more of like a pride to it. It felt like something was being reborn, which is probably something to do with the title of Green Hill Remade. It just feels like something's being born out of nothing. Whereas this one feels like either you were disappointed by a reality of whatever happened in this storyline, or you're just reflecting on the decisions made, and it's just a different energy. The other one feels much more like you did something right, and this one feels like you wish you could have done something different, or somebody else did something different that didn't lead you down this crazy rabbit hole of shit you had to fix, because that definitely happens in this game for sure. But it's, again, just amazing to me that they are so good at taking different people. I don't know if the composers on these two are the same or different. I haven't looked at the credits yet, but I've seen multiple people who work on these games for these areas, and they're so good at working together to make this consistency very much a thing. The music director must be hard at work making sure that everybody's tone is roughly within the same ballpark so they can achieve that sort of feeling. And again, that consistency between any region, any area is so important, and I feel like a lot of game developers forget about that, and I'm sure even Genshin does too, at least in some aspects. But their music team really fucking nails it, because even if they are so vastly different on how they're supposed to feel and just in general resonate with you, what emotional trigger it's supposed to hit, they make sure that they do that without forgetting where the song comes from, what it's supposed to be about, and how they manage to actually get you to that emotional response. They're just so fucking good at it. But aside from that, I don't really have much else to say on this one. It was just fucking pretty, so I'm gonna listen to this one while I'm editing just because it makes me feel so weirdly at peace. That pensive response is something that I look forward to a lot when I listen to music, when I'm just kind of trying to sit and experience my life, even if I'm doing something just kind of tedious, like editing, for example. It's nice to just have a song that keeps your mind present, yet also at peace, and that's exactly what this song does. So I'm going to listen to this one while I edit. If you have another song you want me to get to from Genshin, or a couple of songs, drop them in the comments below, and I will do my best as always to get to those. Or if you don't want to do any of that, maybe just want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, you know how to do all that, and I will see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!